Hey, Mike here. I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Dark Poutine early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime. Welcome back to Dark Poutine. I am Mike Brown, and I see my friend Matthew.
Hello.
He's sitting in his room with his snoring dog at his feet.
Yep.
How is Sir Steve?
Old boy.
Old boy, yeah.
Moved him up to injectable medicine for his arthritis.
Okay. Do you do the injections, or are you taking him to the vet for them?
Oh, I do them.
Okay. Well, there you go.
The vet was like, okay, how are we going to do this, Mike? We're going to do this by you giving me those 2 needles, and I'll do them at home because it's much less dramatic.
Yeah, poor Steve hates the doctor just as much as I do.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during the Dark Poutine podcast are solely those of the producer and do not necessarily represent those of Curious Cast, its affiliate, Global News, nor their parent company, Chorus Entertainment.
Dark Poutine is not for the faint of heart or squeamish. Listener discretion is strongly advised. We're not experts on the topics we present, nor are we journalists. We're 2 ordinary Canadian schmucks chatting about crime and the dark side of history. Let's get to it. Put on your toque, grab yourself a double-double and a Nanaimo bar. It's time to scarf down some Dark Poutine.
You are responsible for obtaining and maintaining at your own cost all equipment needed to listen to Dark Poutine. Dark Poutine can be addictive. Side effects may include, but not be limited to, pausing and questioning the system, elevated heart rate, pondering humanity, odd looks from colleagues as you laugh out loud at work, family members not into true crime worrying about you. Positive side effects may include some perspectives and opinions that you disagree with, as well as some wokeness and empathy. If you don't think Dark Poutine is for you, consult your doctor immediately.
So before we get started, I was a guest on my good friend Paul Bestall's podcast, Mysteries and Monsters. He's a fabulous host, and his show is one of my favorites. So to learn more, head over to mysteriesandmonsters.com and have a listen. So the reason I am telling you this is because it was Paul who first told me about this story, and I was immediately intrigued. So thank you for the inspiration, Paul. And again, go to mysteriesandmonsters.com to have a listen to his show. So here's what we're going to learn today. On a November night in 1989, the quiet fields near Carp, Ontario were interrupted by strange lights arcing across the sky, a sight so odd that it left locals searching for answers. Soon, anonymous packages began to arrive, sent to UFO researchers all over Canada and the United States, packed with photos, documents, and a videotape showing what appeared to be a UFO blazing above the marsh. The sender called himself Guardian. Suddenly, what started as small-town talk exploded into one of Canada's most perplexing UFO stories, a bizarre mystery that remains debated to this day. You're listening to Dark Poutine, episode 394, Guardian UFO, the Carp, Ontario Mystery. So, Matthew, if I remember correctly, you really love UFO stories.
I fucking hate UFO stories.
I know you do. We're doing it anyway. Carp, Ontario, is a rural community located approximately 33 kilometers, 21 miles northwest of the Canadian capital, Ottawa, and is part of the wider West Carleton area. It sits along the Carp River and is a straightforward drive from the city centre, taking roughly 30 minutes by car. Carp began as a quiet crossroads in the mid-1800s and has roots that reach back thousands of years. The lands around Carp Hills and the Carp River were shaped over 1 billion years ago. 12,000 years ago, glacial waters left behind fertile soils that made the area ideal for farming. Indigenous people, including the Algonquin Anishinaabe, lived and moved through these lands for centuries before settlement by Europeans. The township, surveyed in 1818, began drawing settlers, predominantly Protestant Irish, around 1819. Many arrived in the 1840s, escaping famine and seeking farmland. Carp, first known as Newtown, became a modest hub. The Big Fire of 1870 wiped out many buildings, sparking a wave of growth and new businesses. When the Ottawa and Arnprior rail line reached Carp in 1893, it pushed the village's development. Carp's train station saw 4 daily trains connecting rural life to Ottawa. By the late 19th century, Carp had basic shops, hotels, and the beginnings of community life. The village remained centered on farming, with the Carp Agricultural Society and Fair starting in 1863, traditions that continue to this day. Throughout the 20th century, Carp's population remained small, but the village was known for its tightly knit community, annual fall fair, and thriving agricultural roots. Carp, Ontario might sound familiar to some listeners. The Cold War years brought one unusual addition, the Diefenbunker, a massive underground bunker built in the 1960s to shelter Canadian government officials during a nuclear emergency. This concrete fortress became an unlikely tourist draw, adding another thread to Carp's story. We covered the Diefenbunker in episode 260. Some feel these two things, the nuclear bunker and the UFO sightings, may be related. More on that later.
Yeah, the connection between the Diefenbunker and the UFO sighting says a lot about Cold War imagination, doesn't it?
Sure.
And we'll get into it later, when a community lives above a literal vault of government secrets, it breeds a certain kind of paranoia, right?
Absolutely it does. Yep.
War bunkers, military stuff, it's secret stuff for a reason.
Yeah.
So people build on that. And the fear of nuclear annihilation and the hope of alien visitation are two sides of the same psychological coin in a lot of ways. Both reveal how we project our deepest anxiety skyward.
Mm-hmm.
Carp wasn't just watching the heavens, it was looking for meaning in the machinery, right? Or maybe even the secrecy below its feet.
Yep. As the 1990s approached, Carp remained a farming village surrounded by wetlands and woods, with locals proudly upholding rural traditions. Its peaceful landscape would become home to a strange set of events that came to be known as the Guardian UFO case. In the summer of 1991, on August 18th, the normally quiet townships near West Carleton, just outside Ottawa, saw nights broken by flashes of light in a marshy field. On a clear evening, several residents spotted an unusual glow hovering low over the damp ground. One resident later recalled he was closing up the barn when he saw a circular, glowing light in the sky. It hung above the marsh, brighter than any plane or chopper could be, and it was silent. Word spread quickly among local families. Another local landowner pointed out that while military helicopters sometimes flew over, this was entirely different. What he saw was a round object with a white-blue glow suspended in the air, not moving like any helicopter.
That distinction, entirely different, captures how eyewitness memory works, right? It's emotional, not forensic. People know the rhythms of their own sky. They know what a chopper sounds like, what headlights do in fog. And when somebody violates that sort of sensory map, the imagination rushes in to fill the gap. And whether that feeling is accurate or not doesn't matter as much as the unease that it leaves behind in a lot of ways.
What you're saying is you believe that they saw something different from what they would typically see, and then they explain it by labeling it in a way that they can understand.
I think sometimes people see something different than what they regularly see and make it something. Sometimes people don't see anything but want attention.
I agree. Yep. People tried to make sense of the sighting, but there was no official explanation, and few outside the area seemed to believe the wild stories coming from rural Ontario. Catherine Curley described her experience to a CBC documentary crew, stating that her husband Kirk was not at home as he was on the afternoon shift that evening. She said that after putting her son to bed one night between 9 and 10 p.m., she was about to go upstairs herself when a bright light suddenly illuminated the entire house from the outside. The moment seemed to last unusually long, and she found herself shaking. She looked out the window for any sign of a car or activity outside, but saw nothing. Frightened, she grabbed the phone and called her husband as she was deeply unsettled by what had happened. Kirk's first concern was whether Catherine was all right and if there was any noise, but Catherine said it was utterly silent during what she described as a terrifying experience. The next day, they decided to walk down their laneway, and as they reached the end, a helicopter landed unexpectedly in the field in front of their property. At least 4 people quickly exited the chopper. They seemed to be searching for something and moving frantically. The entire scene lasted about a minute before the group reboarded the helicopter and it took off. Farmers in the area, having also seen a strange light around the same time, talked among themselves. Some chalked it up to teenagers or the weather. Others were convinced it was something no one had ever seen before. Reports described a disc-shaped, luminous object sitting just above the trees, sometimes drifting lower, then darting away at speed impossible for any known aircraft. Later that week, an anonymous resident said to a neighbor, quote, "It was just there, sitting silent, then it was gone, like someone flicked out a lamp in the sky." End quote.
Yeah, and that description, a lamp flicked out, captures how most extraordinary events end, right? Abruptly, without closure.
Right.
1 second the world feels different, the next it's exactly the same, and you're left wondering if you imagined it. And maybe that's why stories like this stay alive, because disbelief never quite feels as satisfying as the memory of awe, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish some things would end and we would just say, was that for real? Anyway. You can take from that what you will.
Like your sense of humor.
I don't have a sense of humor. 4 months, the event faded into local legend, but in the midst of skepticism and faded memories, the story took a sharp turn. No one recognized the name Guardian when the first unmarked package appeared on a doorstep. Then another arrived, and then another, each sent anonymously to UFO investigators, researchers, and enthusiasts. Inside, recipients found photocopied documents, photographs of marshland at night, and a VHS tape labeled simply Guardian. A thumbprint was included on each document sent out in the anonymous packages related to the Carp UFO case. The thumbprint, typically pressed in red ink, appeared alongside the Guardian name or signature and was used as a kind of personal marker or symbol for the sender. Despite numerous analyses, no official identification was ever made from these prints. The thumbprint helped reinforce the mysterious identity and suggested that the same individual was sending each package, but its true purpose and origin remain unknown. Yeah.
The moment the envelopes appeared, this story starts to change shape here, doesn't it?
Right.
It stops being about what people saw and it becomes what someone wanted them to believe.
Right.
And Guardian turned mystery into correspondence, right? This is sort of like a dialogue with no return address. Mm-hmm. And that anonymity gave the whole thing its charge in a lot of ways. The less we knew about him or her, the more we filled in the blanks. And that thumbprint feels like an obsession made visible in a lot of ways. The need to leave a trace without leaving a name. It's what makes Guardian feel human, not cosmic. And someone wanted credit, just not accountability here. And
right, yeah.
You can almost see the contradiction pressed into the paper. I wanted to be believed, but I can't afford to be known.
Yeah, it's like a serial killer sending a letter to the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like this coded, like Jack the Ripper, Zodiac, BTK, they all did it. They wanted some weird credit in a way, but they didn't want to be known for who they really were.
Yep.
Bob Oxler was a UFO investigator from Maryland, USA. He was known for his involvement in prominent UFO cases, and he described himself as a, quote, former NASA mission specialist. In 1992, Oxler received a Guardian package containing photos, alleged secret documents, a map, and the famous VHS tape showing the reported UFO incident near Carp, Ontario. He traveled to Canada to investigate and was featured in media reports and the Unsolved Mysteries TV episode about the case. Oxler's investigation and analysis helped bring international attention to the Guardian UFO events, although he later retired from UFO research. The packages followed a consistent style. The word Guardian in block letters, no return address, and contents stuffed into manila envelopes. The most distinctive and compelling piece of evidence in each bundle was the VHS tape. Oxler gave a detailed account replayed in a CBC POV documentary on the case. Quote, "When I got the package from Guardian, I wasn't sure what to expect. I opened it up and found the VHS tape with the label just Guardian written on it. The first time I watched the tape, I saw what looked like a saucer-shaped object, very bright lights flashing. There were some vehicles in the shot and a lot of darkness, not much sound. I replayed the tape several times, looking for anything I might have missed. It was hard to tell what was really happening in it." End quote. Oxler also said, quote, "After reviewing the footage, I couldn't say for sure what was on it. It looked unusual, but there was no definitive evidence there." End quote.
And that's the genius of the tape. It never confirms or denies anything.
Mm-hmm.
The darkness does half the storytelling.
Yep.
In a way, Guardian understood suspense better than most filmmakers do. The less you show, the more the viewer supplies. And whether that was manipulation or craft depends on what you think the goal was, truth or simply attention.
Mm-hmm. So I watched the Guardian UFO tape myself and can echo what Oxler said. It's shot by an unseen filmmaker in darkness and shows a cluster of bright red flares burning on the ground, while a dark disc-like object with a glowing underside and a flashing blue light hovers nearby. It shows a glowing object resembling a classic flying saucer, pulsing in faint arcs as the person shooting the footage observes from a distance. At one point, an emergency vehicle, believed to be a fire truck, enters the frame, its headlights illuminating the scene. There's a little sound apart from a distant dog barking, or perhaps it's a coyote. In some sections, the tape, which plays just a few short minutes, shows a figure or shape that might be a person near the marsh. The video is wobbly and grainy, making it difficult to verify details, and the footage is unsettling, raising debate over whether it shows an elaborate hoax, something unexplainable, or just something ordinary. The strangeness of the tape and the information gaps became fuel for arguments on both sides. Despite the skepticism of some, others took the contents as proof of something unexplainable in Carp's marshes. Analysts who scrutinized the footage noticed a fire truck and flashing lights that appeared to respond to the scene. They could not determine, based on the graininess, whether the situation was an orchestrated hoax or a genuine government response to something truly unusual. In the show notes, you will find a link to the Guardian UFO tape on YouTube. Whoever Guardian was, the individual claimed to possess first-hand knowledge. Each package included typed pages, a portion of which was posted on the Ottawa Rewind website near the 30th anniversary of the events. The transcript, which I will read below, makes some bold claims about other events in the area 2 years before the sighting of August 18, 1991. This letter is wild, so hang on. Quote, "Canadian and American security agencies are engaged in a conspiracy of silence to withhold from the world the alien vessel seized in the swamps of Corkery Road, Carp, in 1989. UFO sightings in the Ontario region had intensified in the 1980s, specifically around nuclear power generating stations. On November 4, 1989, at 2000 hours, Canadian Defence Department radars picked up a globe-shaped object traveling at phenomenal speed over Carp, Ontario. The UFO abruptly stopped and dropped like a stone. Canadian and American security agencies were immediately notified of the landing. Monitoring satellites traced the movements of the aliens to a triangular area off Almonte and Corkery roads. The ship had landed in deep swamp near Corkery Road. 2 AH-64 Apaches and a UH-60 Blackhawk headed for the area the following night. The helicopters carried full weapon loads. They were part of a covert American unit that specialized in the recovery of alien craft. Flying low over Ontario pine trees, the Apache attack choppers soon spotted a glowing blue 20-meter in diameter sphere. As targeting lasers locked on, both gunships unleashed their full weapon loads of 8 missiles each. All 16 were exploded in proximity bursts 10 meters downwind from the ship. The missiles were carrying Vexin, a deadly neuroactive gas which kills on contact. Exposed to air, the gas breaks down quickly into inert components. Immediately after having completed their mission, the gunships turned around and headed back across the border. Now the Blackhawk landed as men exploded from its open doors. In seconds, the 6-man strike team had entered the UFO through a 7-meter hatchless oval portal. No resistance was encountered. At the controls, 3 dead crewmen were found. With the ship captured, the U.S. Air Force, Pentagon, and Office of Naval Intelligence were notified. Through the night, a special team of technicians had shut down and disassembled the sphere. Early the next morning, November 6, 1989, construction equipment and trucks were brought into the swamp. The UFO parts were transported to a secret facility in Canada, Ontario. As a cover story, the locals were informed that a road was being built through the swamp. No smokescreen was needed for the military activity as Canadian forces regularly train in the Carp region. Officially, nothing unusual was reported in the area. Although someone anonymously turned in a 35mm roll of film, it was received by the National Research Council of Canada in Ottawa. The film contained several clear shots of an entity holding a light. At this time, the photographer is still unidentified. The humanoids were packed in ice and sent to an isolation chamber at the University of Ottawa. CIA physiologists performed the autopsies. The reptilian fetus-headed beings were listed as Class 1 NTEs, non-terrestrial entities. Like others recovered in previous operations, they were muscular, gray-white-skinned humanoids. The ship was partially reassembled at the underground facility in Canada. Unlike previous recoveries, this one is pure military. Built as a starfighter, it is heavily armed and armored. In design, no rivets, bolts, or welds were used in fastening, yet when reconstructed there are no seams. The UFO itself is made up of a matrixed dielectric magnesium alloy. It is driven by pulsed electromagnetic fields generated by a cold fusion reactor. All offensive capabilities utilize independently targeting electronic beam weapons. In the cargo hold were found ordnance racks containing 50 Soviet nuclear warheads. Their purpose was revealed by advanced tactical/combat computers located in the flight deck. The most important alien tech find were the 2mm spheroid brain implants. Surgically inserted through the nasal orifice, the individual can be fully monitored and controlled. The CIA and Canadian government have actively supported mind slave experiments for years. Currently, the University of Ottawa is involved in ELF wave mind control programs, a continuation of the CIA psychological warfare project known as MK Ultra, started at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal. Using ELF signals transmitted at the same wavelength the human brain uses, the researchers could subliminally control the test subject. The alien implants utilize the same principles, except that the whole unit is subminiaturized and contained in the brain. Fortunately, the implants can be detected by magnetic resolution scanning technology. All individuals implanted by the aliens are classified as zombies. The zombies have been programmed to help overthrow mankind in the near future. End quote.
And there it is, the descent into total fantasy.
Well, we've just whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah, off into the stratosphere.
But even fantasy has a kind of logic, doesn't it, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you decide the system lies about everything, you know, disbelief stops being protection and it becomes fuel. So zombies might sound absurd, but it's really a metaphor of surrender. This guy has like fear that someone somewhere is quietly rewriting your thoughts while you sleep, right? Guardian understood that fear instinctively. His story wasn't about aliens storming in from space. It really is. This story is really about the fear of control seeping in somewhere, someone above you.
Sure. When you're not paying attention, yeah.
Right? And that's what keeps it alive, not the spectacle of invasion, and we all feel it these days, the way that ache of powerlessness that we have, that suspicion that someone else is piloting the ship and you're just along for the ride, and no matter what you do, you can't stop it. That's how I feel about the world right now.
We're just batteries for the Matrix, Matthew. Just batteries for the Matrix.
Just consumers and algorithms.
Yeah. The Guardian claims, reprinted in nearly every document sent, insisted that non-human entities had landed and that Canadian authorities went to lengths to hide the evidence. As more people received these packages, the network of those aware of Guardian's claims grew. Investigators from as far as the United States and Europe began to call residents for more information and copies of the evidence. It was not just the footage that drew interest, but the way evidence intersected with real places and honest people in Carp. Despite the sensational nature of Guardian's claims, every recipient faced the same frustration. The sources were anonymous, the documents untraceable, and the footage ambiguous. Still, the frequency, style, and local details in the bundles convinced many that the sender had deep knowledge, if not of aliens, at least of Carp and its community. And we will take a break right here. And we are back at the halfway point, Matthew. Thoughts? You say you hate UFO stories, but you have a lot to say about them, interestingly, because it's provocative. And that's why I tell these stories, because they make you think, what is going on?
Yeah, and just so everyone's clear, right? Like, whenever anyone talks about UFOs, I'm 100% in the camp of it's bumkiss, right? Like, and you can you have no imagination. It's like, well, but what fascinates me about these stories and about the Guardian story isn't whether it's true, right? It's how truth stopped being the point,
right?
And this is why I find them fascinating in sort of more of the cultural anthropology of it versus like, are aliens real sort of thing, right? Guardian understood that mystery is stronger than revelation, and if you feed people just enough to argue over, they'll keep the story alive for you. So by the early 90s, paranoia and technology were colliding. You know, the old Cold War secrecy, conspiracy culture, new media, all blurring the line between evidence and theater. And Guardian's story used these ingredients perfectly. Aliens, mind control, nuclear site. There's no proof in anything. It's all projection. But beneath the spectacle of all of this stuff is something human. The people of Carp weren't chasing UFOs. They're chasing coherence in a way, trying to understand. A light didn't fit. A feeling that something was off. You know, Guardian turned that confusion into a self-sustaining myth. And his real subject wasn't aliens. It was belief itself and how easily curiosity can harden into faith when certainty disappears. And that's what I find fascinating about UFO stories.
Me too. The Guardian packages soon drew national and international attention. An episode of Unsolved Mysteries focused on the Guardian UFO case and aired during the 1992-93 season. It featured the story of Diane Labinek, another West Carleton resident, who witnessed a strange UFO sighting on November 4th, 1989, which verified the claims made by Guardian in their communications. Labinek herself appeared in the episode recounting her experience. In the episode, Diane Labinek claimed that on the night of November 4th, 1989, she was alone at home after putting her children to bed. When her dogs began barking around 10 p.m., she looked out and saw red flames and smoke in a nearby field. The fire did not spread and remained in one spot, which seemed unusual to her. As she watched, an unidentified craft with blue flashing light on top and another bright light on its underside descended beside the flames. The object stayed on the ground for about 10 minutes before rising, moving behind some trees and vanishing along with the flames. Feeling anxious and unsure if anyone would take her seriously, she chose not to call the police. Roughly 10 minutes after the object disappeared, an unmarked helicopter flew low over the same field, crossed back and forth, and then passed directly over Labenek's house before leaving the area. At dawn, she searched the fields but found nothing, no scorch marks, and no evidence to support what she had seen the night before. Reluctant to share her story without proof, she disclosed the encounter only to her husband and mother. Labenek claimed that she'd stayed silent about the 1991 sighting until the Guardian videotape surfaced, and what she saw there closely matched what she had witnessed in 1989. On viewing the tape, she felt compelled to come forward and share her experience.
Yeah.
Right.
This is where the story collapses under its own weight.
Okay.
We've got a dramatic sighting, a helicopter, flames that leave no mark, and a tape that conveniently surfaces years after, but still not a single piece of verifiable evidence. Zero. And we're left with is one person's account and a copy of VHS tape sent by an anonymous crank. And yet, instead of starting with all that emptiness, what do? We all rush to fill it, right? So we don't even know that anything even happened, right? We debate swamp gas and military cover-ups and aliens, anything, when we haven't even cleared the basic hurdle of proving that something even happened in the first place. And that's not investigation, frankly, it's entertainment. And Guardian didn't just build a hoax, he built a trap. He got everyone arguing over explanations for an event that may never even have existed at all.
What about the people who talk about having seen something? What about all those people who saw something on that very same day? We're not just talking about one sighting. We're not talking about one random thing.
But we're talking about, what's her name?
Yeah, Diane Labenek.
So that was only one sighting, right? That specificity of that was one thing. Other people saw light. Big deal.
Okay. Bob Oxler came to Canada with a skeptical yet curious approach. He visited the site depicted in the tape, a marshland near Carp, hoping to match background features in the footage with real geography. He spoke to area residents and landowners, including those mentioned in earlier witnesses' accounts, like Diane Labenek. Oxler explained, quote, "We went to Canada and tried to find the actual site from the tape. It was difficult because there wasn't a lot to go on," end quote. Searching for scorched earth or physical trace evidence, he found little to substantiate the dramatic visuals in the video. Uh-oh.
Quelle surprise.
Yeah.
And isn't that the heart of so many investigations? I call it the disappointment of looking too closely.
Yeah.
The closer you get to a mystery, the less it behaves. And what once felt cosmic turns into mud, reflections, and static. But the gap between what we hope to find and what's actually there, that's where the belief still keeps growing despite it all, right?
Yeah. During his investigation, Oxler conducted interviews with both believers and skeptics. He encountered locals with memories of bright lights or odd aircraft, but also heard from many who dismissed the case outright. Quote, "I talked to some locals, but people didn't want to discuss it too much. There was a sense that they preferred the story stayed quiet," he recalled. Some landowners denied any connection to the specific incident depicted, while others referenced unrelated lights or sounds common in rural Ottawa. The case gained increasing attention as Oxler, backed by his technical background and connections to the UFO community, shared his findings with researchers in both the United States and Canada. The Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, one of the largest civilian UFO investigation organizations, became involved after Oxler circulated the Guardian tape. MUFON investigators visited Carp, conducted site examinations, and attempted to coordinate claims between the video, local testimony, and apparent physical evidence. Their conclusions remained divided. While some thought the tape showed a genuine event, others questioned several details. As do we.
And that's the point. The divide is the story.
Mm-hmm.
Every believer needs a skeptic, and every skeptic needs a believer to measure himself against.
Right.
That's what this story is about. Guardian's tape didn't reveal truth. It created roles. It gave people something to be for or against, to argue, to belong to. right? And that's how myths endure, not by convincing anyone, by giving everyone a position to defend.
Media coverage intensified, especially following an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, which televised the Guardian tape and Diane Labanek's account to a wide North American audience. Newspapers and TV outlets across Canada published stories debating the authenticity of the evidence. Reporters traveled to Carp, spoke to residents, and tried to track down the elusive Guardian. Public curiosity about the thumbprints, the anonymity of the sender, and the American investigators' interest helped sustain the story in headlines for months. Local police were cautious in their response. Officers noted that while they fielded calls about sightings and strange lights, no physical evidence tied these reports to the dramatic scenario described by Guardian. The marsh never yielded physical traces of a landing, despite repeated searches both by locals and investigators. The Canadian military likewise denied any activity or knowledge related specifically to the sighting and explained that military helicopters sometimes conducted training in the region, which may have contributed to local confusion. Skeptical voices grew louder as the details of the case circulated. Critics closely examined the VHS tape, pointing out inconsistencies with the alleged emergency response, questioning the presence and identification of the fire truck, the lighting, and the behavior of visible figures. Variable accounts from landowners fueled further dissent, with some insisting that the field shown in the tape had not seen any disturbance, while others found the described lights unlikely to be natural or man-made. Document analysts and independent researchers focused on the typed sheets and photos included in each Guardian package. The typewritten reports, maps, and photographs bore a distinct style but offered little by way of verifiable provenance. Investigators noted the recurring red thumbprint on correspondence but failed to match it with any known individual. Skeptics argued that the documents might have been produced within Canada or the United States using easily available resources, and no traceable office or government source existed behind the claims of cover-up. A prominent area of speculation emerged over Guardian's true identity and motives. Some theorized that Guardian was a local Canadian hoping to stir intrigue or stoke community rumors. Others thought the packages might originate from a disgruntled ex-military employee or someone with knowledge of local emergency response. Points of evidence included the distinctive thumbprint, the careful choice of details in taped segments, and occasional references to a masked figure in the case reports, though no credible source was ever able to confirm a real mask or precise identity for Guardian. Throughout the debate, there was a question about whether Guardian's efforts were meant to warn, expose, or cause confusion. The possibility of a hoax was repeatedly discussed in both the press and investigative circles. Analysts weighed whether the elaborate correspondence and video setup could have been orchestrated by one person, a small group, or even a creative prankster with knowledge of local geography and media dynamics. At the same time, others argued that the duration, detail, and continued attention paid to the case by multiple independent parties pointed away from a pure hoax and towards a more complicated truth, whether a misinterpreted local event, a government cover-up, or something else. Bob Oxler, who remained grounded in his technical critique and skeptical by background, summed up his experience candidly. "I never met the person who sent the tape. All the contact was done anonymously and every package just had the Guardian name. After reviewing the footage, I couldn't say for sure what was on it. It looked unusual, but there was no definitive evidence there." Despite multiple investigations, neither Oxler nor the press, police, or other UFO groups ever identified Guardian. The mystery, compounded by local silence, anonymous correspondence, and enduring public interest, remains. Each attempt to solve the puzzle only added another layer of confusion and speculation to the story of the Carp incident, a tale shaped as much by its unanswered questions as by its dramatic photographs and footage. Oxler summed up the confusion, saying Guardian could be anyone. That's the scariest part. No face, no motive, just the story.
Yeah, Oxler said Guardian could be anyone, and for me, it doesn't make it scarier, it makes it smaller. When a story could belong to anyone, it stops belonging to anything real. No face, no motive, just the story sounds ominous, but it's really the definition of noise, isn't it?
It's like a creepypasta before creepypastas came along, yeah.
It's just like a signal stripped of purpose, just looping endlessly because we keep giving this damn thing oxygen. Guardian isn't frightening. He's forgettable for me. What's unsettling isn't the anonymity. It's the energy we spent trying to give that anonymity meaning. Like that's what's the unsettling part for me. And let's talk about police resources here. At some point, you have to ask, is this really where we want police resources going?
Right.
Whole investigations into anonymous VHS tapes and backyard lights. And when you think of the real crimes that go unsolved, it feels absurd. Every hour spent chasing, quote, Guardian was an hour not spent, on something that actually matters. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the real trick of stories like this. They pull focus. They distract smart people with nonsense just long enough for reality to slip further out of sight.
There's a lot of that
how many cold cases in this region are unsolved, and we have police chasing bloody Guardian crap, right?
Mm-hmm. Many locals still recall seeing something, but what exactly was it? Diane Labenek's experience didn't just end with her own story. Her grandson Derek has played a crucial role in advancing her narrative. He grew up hearing about the Guardian incident, the lights in the field, and the impact that it had on his grandmother. Inspired by her openness, but also aware of the doubts surrounding the case, he has shared her recollections with new audiences, including through digital platforms, interviews, and family archives. By revisiting Diane's account and bringing her words into contemporary discussion, Derek has helped turn a single witness statement into an enduring local legend. In the 2021 CBC POV doc on the case, Derek read his grandmother's words, quote, "All I can remember is walking down the road onto the Labenek's property where the craft was. The next thing I recall is standing there watching them come out of the woods and boarding the craft. The next thing I knew, I was back on the couch and the 10 p.m. show was well underway. The next thing that happened was my dog, Sheba, alerting me to something going on outside. I went to the living room window and saw a light rising up into the sky, swirling very quickly in a counterclockwise motion. Then it quickly shot up into the sky and the flash was gone." End quote. Diane's willingness to speak up not just for herself but for others in Carp who saw something inexplicable has kept the mystery alive for future generations. Her grandson Derek's efforts to preserve and present the story ensured that Diane's integrity and reflective approach are remembered even as the facts of the case remain unresolved and sort of shadowy. When asked directly by documentarians whether his grandmother was Guardian or had shot the now famous videotape, Derek said, quote, "I don't know. I can't definitively say yes or no. I want to, but I can't definitively say whether it was her or not. There's no evidence that says, I took this videotape, There's no evidence that says she was Guardian. I don't think." End quote. As we mentioned, the Defen Bunker, a Cold War-era nuclear fallout shelter located near Carp, Ontario, has often been mentioned in connection with the Guardian UFO incident due to its proximity to the alleged landing site. Built in the early 1960s as a secret bunker intended to house Canadian government officials in the event of a nuclear attack, the Defen Bunker became a symbol of Cold War secrecy and was later converted into a museum. Its imposing presence on the local landscape has inspired speculation that it might be related to the strange events reported in the area. Some have suggested that the proximity of such a high-security, once top-secret site could have attracted unusual interest, whether from pranksters, those with inside knowledge, or more speculatively, genuine unidentified craft. Both media coverage and Guardian's own documents have played up links between the UFO story and government covert activity, with some of the anonymous materials explicitly referencing conspiracies involving nuclear weapons, secret facilities, and cover-ups. However, no credible evidence has emerged tying the Defen Bunker directly to any UFO retrieval or research. Its presence seems to have heightened the atmosphere of mystery and suspicion rather than providing a direct cause for the incident. Over the years, investigations continued, and the community remained divided, with believers and skeptics still debating the meaning of Guardian's anonymous packages, the thumbprint signature, and wild claims of secret recoveries. No one has ever identified Guardian, and despite extensive research, the true nature of what happened in Carp and why it captured international attention remains unsolved. This story is not only about strange lights and mysterious tapes, it's about ordinary people drawn into an extraordinary mystery, the fragility of proof, and the ways anonymous claims can shape local history. The Guardian case continues to haunt Carp, leaving lingering questions, legends, and a place in Canadian UFO lore that will not easily be forgotten.
Yeah, and maybe that's the real takeaway. Yeah, not that something extraordinary happened in Carp, but that we still talk about it as if it might have, right? The Guardian story isn't about UFOs. It's about how easily mystery fills a vacuum where evidence should be. Mm-hmm. And people want wonder, they want meaning, but they've built and they'll build it out of whatever scraps are left lying around. Thumbprints, VHS noise, a night sky that doesn't explain itself, and
anonymous internet posts about non-existent basements of pizza shops in Washington, D.C.
People believe anything, especially right now. People willingly will see facts and go, this doesn't fit the narrative, so I'm just going to jump on this bandwagon and completely ignore the facts. That's what's going on right now. Mm-hmm. What lingers with this story isn't proof, it's appetite, the need to believe in something. And in that sense, Guardian did exactly what he probably set out to do. He made ordinary people mistake confusion for some sort of revelation. And the lights have gone out over Carp a long time ago, but this argument never will, because it's never about the sky. It in the end, this is about us.
Totally. However, there's some more interesting things to look at here. The idea that UFOs are linked with nuclear sites is not unique to Carp, Ontario. Across the world, there have been numerous reports of unidentified aerial phenomena appearing around nuclear weapons facilities, power plants, storage bunkers, and other military sites. Reported UFO sightings near nuclear and military sites are numerous and often dramatic. One famous case occurred at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana in 1967, when multiple witnesses described a UFO hovering near the base, after which 10 nuclear missiles became inexplicably disabled for a short period. At Chernobyl during the 1986 disaster, witnesses claimed that a UFO appeared and shone a beam onto the burning reactor, after which radiation levels reportedly decreased significantly, a story still debated today. In the United Kingdom, a notable sighting happened in March 1993 above the Hartlepool nuclear power station, with official government documents confirming multiple reports of a strange object hovering near the facility. Reports from Canadian military personnel describe numerous incidents, such as a large tubular UFO tracked by radar near Alberta's CFB Cold Lake in 1981, and a zigzagging UFO seen above Ontario's CFB Borden base in 1978. Many accounts focus on unexplained lights, shapes, or maneuvers directly over secured military or nuclear installations, with official investigations often unable to provide definitive explanations for the phenomena. During the 1980s, Ontario was one of several regions where UFO sightings were reported to have intensified in the vicinity of nuclear power stations. Another frequently cited example is the Rendlesham Forest incident near 2 American-operated nuclear bases in the UK, where both civilians and military personnel witnessed unexplained lights and physical effects close to the base's perimeter. According to former U.S. military staff, including Robert Salas, who described a, quote, strange red luminescence and the shutdown of 10 nuclear missiles, have fueled ongoing claims that whoever or whatever commands these unidentified craft has an apparent interest in humanity's nuclear capabilities. For more on this line of investigation, I encourage you to read the book UFOs and Nukes: Extraordinary Encounters at Nuclear Weapons Sites, written by Robert L. Hastings. Within the Carp case itself, the Diefenbunker adds an extra layer of intrigue. Some locals and researchers believe its presence overshadows the UFO story, amplifying conspiracy theories linking national defense infrastructure and secrecy with the possibility of extraordinary events. Others see the bunker as a relic of another era, noting that no physical evidence or government statement has ever established a direct link between the facility and the Guardian incident. Still, the intersection of a famous UFO case and a nuclear bunker makes Carp unique on the map of alleged UFO activity in Canada. Recently, public interest in UFOs, now often referred to as UAPs, unidentified aerial or anomalous phenomena, has surged partly due to high-profile hearings in the United States Congress. Lawmakers have questioned military officials, intelligence personnel, and whistleblowers about encounters with mysterious objects, with many emphasizing the importance of transparency for national security and public trust. Hearings held by the House Oversight Committee and other panels have included testimony from former military pilots and intelligence officers who describe fast-moving, often unexplained objects in both the sky and underwater. These sessions have promoted more open discussion and the declassification of government knowledge about the topic, reflecting a growing curiosity and concern among the public and officials. In this context, Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett, a member of the House Oversight Committee, has drawn attention for his claims regarding possible extraterrestrial activity beneath the ocean. In September 2025, Burchett suggested that, quote, alien entities could have established underwater bases at 5 or 6 locations off the U.S. coast. He cited discussions with U.S. Navy personnel who reportedly described unidentified underwater craft traveling at speeds far beyond current military technology, with Burchett saying, quote, "We have naval personnel telling me that we have sightings of these underwater craft that they're chasing are doing hundreds of miles an hour, and the best we've got is something that does maybe just a little bit under 40 miles an hour." End quote.
Right. And, this is obviously, Mike, the secret Canadian Navy, which is 12 guys, 2 kayaks, and poutine gravy for fuel. And their secret base is, I know this for a fact, is under the Canadian Tire in Strathroy. And seriously, it's true, and I'm not starting a lie here. And it's what I believe I've seen, and I have no proof. But I want the Crown to start investigating it. And I want all Strathroy police time spent on this for the next 12 years.
Yeah, I think that would be excellent. Congressman Burchett also speculated that these entities might have been present on Earth for millennia, suggesting that humanity may know less about the ocean's depths than it does about the surface of the moon. His remarks, which remain unverified, have circulated widely on social media and sparked debate both within Congress and among the public. However, experts continue to point out that no physical evidence has been released to substantiate claims of underwater alien bases. Still, Burchett's statements are part of a notable shift. Serious UFO and UAP discussions are now occurring publicly at the highest levels of government, adding weight to long-running questions about unexplained phenomena and what might lie under the seas. Today, questions about UFOs and possible encounters near Carp resonate globally, with governments now willing to openly discuss these mysteries. At least some. We don't hear a lot of that in Canada. Oh well. U.S. congressional hearings and public claims indicate that the subject is no longer just a fringe concern. It has moved into the public spotlight, stirring both hope and skepticism. As long as there are strange events and unanswered questions, stories like the Guardian UFO incident will remain part of the conversation, driving curiosity about what might be waiting in the sky, beneath the sea, or in a rural field just outside of Ottawa. And that's it for Dark Poutine episode 394, Guardian UFO, the Carp, Ontario Mystery.
That's right, it's time for voicemails. You can leave us a message at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you. Let's see who called us this week.
Alrighty, we don't have any voicemails this week, but that's okay.
We did them last week.
We did one last week. That's it for this week's voicemails. Again, you can leave us one at 1-877-327-5786 or 1-877-DARK-PTN. We'd love to hear from you, even if it is just to say hi and to tell us to go shit in our hats. If you're stumped for what to chat with us about, a quick story is welcome. And we don't have any PayPal or Patreon for this week. We're recording ahead of time, so we know that we'll have some next time. Thanks to all our patrons and Donut Money donors past and present for your generosity. It helps to keep the show going. You can become a patron of Dark Poutine at patreon.com/darkpoutine. For a one-time donation, you can send us donut money via PayPal or interact using our email address, darkpoutinepodcast@gmail.com. If you don't already subscribe to the show, it would mean a lot if you did. You can easily find Dark Poutine on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If you haven't gotten yours yet, my 2 books are available to order via links on the Dark Poutine website or anywhere fine books are sold. And speaking of darkpoutine.com, check it out for show notes and other cool stuff. We'd appreciate it if you gave Dark Poutine a like or a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Most importantly, thank you for listening. Tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is a powerful thing. And that's it for this episode of Dark Poutine, so until next time, don't forget to be a good egg and not a bad apple. Ooh. Boo.